With the New York Islanders struggling to score goals, we'll talk about 3 players that need to pick up their game and 3 players that are quietly being very successful early on. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Lots to get to on today's show, but first, if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. It's been a rough start to the season for the New York Islanders, and I don't think there's any great mystery involved in why. The Islanders right now, believe it or not, are 2-2-2 after 6 games, which puts them, well, right now in officially 7th place out of 8 teams in the Metropolitan Division. And clearly this team is struggling in a few areas. And, you know, anybody who watched the game against the Montreal Canadiens, and more specifically the game against the Detroit Red Wings, I mean, here is a team that has been shut out in 3 of its first 6 games, and that is just not a recipe for long-term success, other than the game against Colorado. And the Avalanche were really hurting at that point. The Islanders have really not been firing on all cylinders in any of their other games. And you look at the offense, and clearly that is the biggest issue about this team overall, the lack of goal scoring and offensive production. And you look at this lineup, and there are guys who just have to be better right now. And again, it's early. I am not saying that these players stink or that they're doomed or they can't play better before the season is over. No. But these are guys who are off to slow starts and need to pick up the pace. And, you know, there's different aspects of their games that I'm going to include, but I'm going to start with Mathew Barzal. Barzy has 1 goal and 2 assists in 6 games. So that's 3 points. He has thrown only 2 hits. Again, that's not part of his a big part of his game. And he has 12 shots on goal in 6 games. But here's the thing. Both of his assists have come on the power play. And his goal is an empty net goal. So at even strength, 5-on-5, Mathew Barzal has yet to put a point on the board in 6 games. And that is just, not good enough for your top line winger that Barzal is supposed to be. And look, again, he's on pace right now for 41 points over an 82-game schedule. I have very little doubt that Mathew Barzal will pick up the pace. But Barzal has got to start doing that ASAP, especially with Anthony Duclair no longer available for the foreseeable future. You need more productivity from Mathew Barzal, and it means, in part, that Barzal is going to have to go to the net and be a little more selfish at times and a little bit more directed as to what he's trying to do. I know he's fast. I know he skates at an elite level, but that skating has to have a purpose to it. And let's see if Mathew Barzal can increase that productivity and purpose. And, the goals and, more importantly, I think the assists should follow. One thing I've noticed about Mathew Barzal, he is really trying hard to set up Bo Horvat a lot. And that's great because I know Horvat is more of a goal scorer than a setup guy. And, Mathew Barzal is more of a setup guy than a scorer. But there are times when, he's going to have to look for his third line mate, whether that's eventually Anthony Duclair again, Simon Holmstrom for now, or somebody else if Holmstrom doesn't end up working out. And he's going to have to shoot the puck more. It's got to be a little more variety here between these two teams. Another guy who, in my mind, really needs to play better is, and this may be a little surprising to some people, but Kyle McLean. No points in 6 games. He is a -2. He has only 2 shots on goal in the 6 games. And look, let's face it, the fourth line through 6 games has been absolutely awful offensively. Invisible. And again, I am not expecting 20-goal seasons from any of these guys. But Kyle McLean, no points. Casey Cizikas, no points. Oliver Wahlstrom, no points. Liam Foudy, no points at this juncture of the season. There's got to be points, okay? You got to start putting up points. Gauthier had no points. Whoever plays on that fourth line, there's just no productivity. Now, I give a lot of credit to Kyle McLean. He has taken 47 faceoffs this year and won 32 of them. That was a big problem last year. He was only 42% on draws. And clearly he's got to pick up that pace. But at the same time, you need more from him offensively. I'm not expecting 40 points even, but 0 and 2 shots in 6 games. You've got to contribute a little more juice offensively. Look, you could say what you want about the limitations of the old identity line. Cizikas, Martin, Clutterbuck. All of those guys, though, should score at least 10 goals in a season in their primes. And, you'll get 30 goals plus from that trio over the course of a season. Right now, you're getting Zippo from the Islanders' fourth line, and McLean, he just needs to show a little more spark offensively. He just seems to be in a little sophomore slump at the beginning of the season. And another guy I'm going to put on this list, and this may surprise a few people, but it's Adam Pelech. Yeah, he has 3 assists in 6 games, and I give him credit for that, but he's also a -3, which ties him for the worst plus-minus on the team. And I just see Pelech and Polak kind of regressing defensively this year, and I think they need to pick up their game and play a little better as well, because let's face it, Noah Dobson, kind of limited defensively. Mike Riley, he's okay defensively, but not great. That leaves Pelech and Polak. They've got to be out there as a duo They are your shutdown duo, and they have to be a little bit more effective defensively. The one goal that was scored by the Red Wings was a failure to pick up the trailer by the defensive pair of Polak and Pelech. That pair defensively has to be better. Offensively, I'm not all that worried. I mean, again, a 40-point season from Adam Pelech would be well beyond expectations. But defensively, which is what this duo is supposed to be really good at, it needs to be better. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss. We're going to talk about 3 guys who are playing well and 3 areas that the team needs to pick up on. We're also going to discuss attendance, which was a little bit of a concern. Tuesday night, not a lot of people at UBS Arena. We'll talk about that and what it may mean. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, we're going back to Tuesday, where it was the 51st birthday of an Islanders forward who was with the team in the mid to late 2000s, a Slovakia native. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. There is so much to bet on right now. The World Series is getting started. You've got college and pro football in full swing. And of course, the Islanders playing Friday in New Jersey against the Devils, Saturday against the Florida Panthers at home. Check out all the latest odds on both of these games at FanDuel. Again, get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So I mentioned 3 guys who are struggling. How about 3 guys who are playing well? I don't want to say that no Islanders are playing well. They certainly do have some guys who are getting it done. Got to start with Ilya Sorokin. Here's a guy who should be suing his teammates for non-support. In 3 games this year, he has a goals against average of 1.34. He's given up 4 goals and 75 shots. That's a .947 save percentage. And yet, in spite of that, he has a 1-1-1 record. He has lost 2 of the 3 games he has started this year, despite having a 1.34 goals against average and a .947 save percentage. At worst, he should be 2-0-1. With that kind of a performance, he is literally able to sue for non-support. Another guy who is kind of quietly being effective, although I would say not outstanding, but Anders Lee. 2 goals through 6 games. He is going to the front of the net. He is doing that a little bit more. He also has 13 hits, which places him second on the team. Looks like he is kind of embracing a more physical role now that he has found himself on the bottom 6. And, here's another encouraging factor about Anders Lee. He leads the Islanders through 6 games with 25 shots on goal. He hasn't taken a penalty yet this year. So that's a plus. And I think we are seeing a little more energy and intensity from Anders Lee, and that is definitely encouraging. A third player who is quietly playing well, and I'm not going to say is playing outstanding, but is playing well, and that's Scott Mayfield. Yeah, he only has 1 assist in 6 games, but he has a +3 plus-minus, which is the best on the Islanders. Nobody else has a +3. He's only taken one penalty in the 6 games so far, and he's blocked 10 shots. So again, Mayfield getting closer to being pre-injury form. He's had a couple of periods or shifts that were not outstanding, but overall he is getting back to being the player he was before the injury, and that at least is somewhat encouraging. Now, 3 areas that the Islanders just absolutely must improve upon. And I think these are pretty straightforward, but let's start. Right now, through 6 games, the Islanders have been shut out 3 times in 6 games, and let's face it, they're 30th in the league with 13 goals through 6 games. That's just not going to get the job done. And you got to produce more offense. And I know not having Anthony Duclair won't help, but this team needs to find ways to put pucks in the net. And every dayers, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and Patrick Waugh addressed it. Now, after the game yesterday, Waugh was saying, yeah, we were the better team. We controlled the play. Eventually, the puck will bounce our way. Yeah, okay, that's great to say to the media, but I am thinking and hoping that behind closed doors, Patrick Waugh is saying, guys, put more pucks on the net. Go to the net. Screen the goalie. Get the rebound. Get the tip. Play the kind of game that results in more, difficult digging the puck out, dirty goals, because this is not a team that is going to make too many end-to-end rushes and perfect passes to set up goal-scoring opportunities. It'll happen occasionally, but that's not the team's MO. So goal scoring definitely has to be better. They're 30th in goals, 30th in assists in the league as of right now. And then both special teams have been bad. The power play only hitting at 10.5%. When you take away that first game against Utah, it's been really, really a struggle since then. Your power play should be double 10.5%. You got to be close to 20% at the very least. Again, 28th in the league. Yeah, it's a small sample size. And yeah, losing Anthony Duclair, who one of his 2 goals was on the power play, that doesn't help. But you got to find a way. And it's got to be, you got to move the puck quickly, which they did better on the first 2 power plays against Detroit, but were terrible on the third one. And you got to move the puck with purpose. You got to try to get not the perfect shot, but a good shot. Again, get in front of the goalie, get rebounds, win battles along the boards, but you've got to be setting something up instead of just hanging around and moving the puck on the perimeter. There's got to be a purpose to the movement. And then the penalty kill, which really remains a problem. 30th in the league right now. They've only killed 2/3 of their opponent's power play chances. So 33.3% of the time, the opposition is scoring on the Islanders. Only 2 teams right now are worse. The good news, and I'll throw this in as a counterpoint, the Islanders are actually first in the league with the least number of penalty minutes, only 22 penalty minutes as a team through 6 games. So that's, 3 2/3 penalty minutes per game for the team. That's pretty good. But if they do give up a penalty, the other team has a 1 in 3 chance right now of scoring and converting on it. That has to improve. And look, Tommy Albaline came in to replace Doug Huda as the assistant coach in charge of the PK. We need to start seeing results. Yeah, there's 76 games left on this schedule. But if you don't think that New Jersey and Florida could really do some damage, and that's your next 2 games, if you don't think they could really do some damage with the extra attacker, if you give them opportunities, well, then you're not paying attention to hockey. The Islanders' penalty kill needs to be better. The power play needs to be better. Patrick Waugh better be practicing special teams over the course of, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even at the morning skate Friday, because special teams has to be better. And again, the shooting percentage, 30th in the league, that has to be better as well. Islanders are only scoring on 6.6% of their shots this season. You got to figure those numbers have to get better, but you've got to make them better. You can't just say, if we keep shooting the way we're shooting, eventually a few more pucks will go in. Maybe they will, but more than that, you'll get more goals if you actually play smarter and more determined hockey in the offensive zone. So we've got to see improvement in these areas for the Islanders if they're going to get out of this early season funk offensively and start to win a few more hockey games. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. Attendance, already an issue for the Islanders. We'll talk about that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature on Game Time remains the view from your seat. You go on the app and you can get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Today's episode is also brought to you by your friends at Prize Picks. Now you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You want to go with Prize Picks. They put their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as little as 15 minutes. And Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you could still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. So basically, take a look at different players and you pick whether or not they're going to be over or under the Prize Picks number. For example, Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 267.5 passing yards in a game. Justin Jefferson, more or less than 83.5 receiving yards. All of these are things that you can certainly check out. So right now, download the Prize Picks app and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thanks to everybody who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge on your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Attendance is already becoming a problem for the New York Islanders. This was only the third home game of the year. and they just had, a little more than 12,000 fans at the game against Detroit on Tuesday night. They've got to have more people, and I think the fans who booed the Islanders, especially late in the game on that terrible third power play with about, 5 minutes left in the game where they couldn't even get a shot on goal, they expressed their displeasure. And, I can't say when the team has not won a playoff round the last 3 years, eliminated first round, didn't make the playoffs. That's going backwards for the last 3 years. And the roster essentially did not change a lot. Fans don't want to spend a lot of money to see a team that has been shut out 3 times in 6 games. And, the hope meter, the idea that this team, the way it's presently put together, could be a Stanley Cup contender, I think fans are kind of in a show me mode. And the Islanders have not moved out any major portions of this team to free up cap space to try to improve this team. Every day, as you know, what we've been saying on this show for more than a year, get younger, faster, and more skilled. Yeah, Maxim Siplikov brought a little more skill. Anthony Duclair, when he's healthy, will bring more skill and more speed. But this team needs to give the fans more reasons for hope. And if you have more reasons for hope, you will have more people showing up at games. It's not an emergency right now, but it is something to keep an eye on. Remember, the Islanders host the All-Star game next year. I believe it'll be February. I am hoping that, they realize this team needs to make some changes if they hope to really be a cup contender. They remain in the muddy middle, and I think there is a large segment of the fan base who has spoken to me about it, who I've seen talking on social media about it, that is fed up with the muddy middle. The roster gets older. The team stays the same. The results stay the same. This team either barely makes or barely misses the playoffs. There has to be a change and a reason for hope, or attendance may take a bigger hit if the team continues to struggle. Something to keep an eye on, and definitely a concern if I was the owners of the New York Islanders. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and Tuesday was the 50th birthday of former Islanders winger Miro Shatan. Shatan, a native of Slovakia, drafted by the Oilers in the 5th round back in 1993, played for the Oilers in 95-96, then moved on to play for the Sabres before joining the Islanders in the 05-06 season, spent 3 full seasons on the island, including a 35-goal, 66-point season in 05-06 and a 27-goal, 59-point season in 06-07. Won the Stanley Cup with the Penguins in 08-09 and finished his NHL career with the Bruins in 2009-2010 before heading back to Europe. Played in 1,050 career NHL games, 363 goals, 735 points, 464 penalty minutes, had 21 goals and 54 points in 86 playoff games, including a goal and 2 assists in 5 playoff games with the Islanders. One of his best games as an Islander, in fact, clearly his best game as an Islander, February 4th, 2006 at the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh. Rick DiPietro, the goalie for the Islanders, Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalie for the Penguins. And our Islanders' birthday of the day, Miro Shatan, opens the scoring just 2.5 minutes into the game. Brent Sopel and Trent Hunter get the assists, and the Islanders lead 1-0. Sidney Crosby ties it on the power play for Pittsburgh, and then Miro Shatan, another power play goal late in the first period. Brent Sopel and Mike York the assist. In the second period, Shatan on the power play. A third goal, his only hat trick as an Islander. Mike York and Joel Bouchard with the helpers. Islanders go on to win the game 5-4. Chris Campoli got the game winner. But for Miro Shatan, he had the 3 goals on 5 shots, all 3 coming on the power play. He also took a minor penalty in 19 minutes and 8 seconds of play. 40 saves for Rick DiPietro. The Islanders outshot 44-29 in this game. But the hat trick by Miro Shatan and the good goaltending of Rick DiPietro helped the Islanders to a 5-4 road win. So Miro Shatan is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Tomorrow on the show, we will preview both of this weekend's games. Friday night's road game against the Devils, Saturday's home game against the Florida Panthers. Still no specific update on Anthony Duclair, but as soon as we have one, we'll tweet it out and we'll talk about it on tomorrow's show if we get that news before then. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.